It's July of 2023, and here are some key notes from the Pokemon usage list that were recently released. First, all 3 Generation 9 starters are now in the UU tier, that being Meowscarada, Skeledirge, and Quaquaval. This was inevitable coming in, as Skeledirge was having more difficulty with the prominent ground users like Tusk, and now Lando running everywhere alongside Earth Power users and other miscellaneous Pokemon. It was hard to comment a switch to begin with, and thereafter be the stall Pokemon it was supposed to be, especially with a lot of hazards running around, toxic like from Glowking, and all those kind of reasons as well alongside. It just made it very difficult, more so than ever before. Meowscarada no longer serves as the primary lead set option like it once was before, with Hisuian Samurai running everywhere with Caesar's Edge, and as a damage dealer itself, it wasn't that hard to wall with Corviknight, Amoonguss, now Heatran, and also other popular Pokemon as well in the tier. Cinderace just did its job better, primarily because fire coverage is more valuable than the grass type moves at the moment. It still hit hard, and core change was also pretty valuable. Overall, as a pivot Pokemon, Cinderace just kinda did its job better. Next, we have to talk about Sandy Shocks and the rise it had to OU after the release of Pokemon Home. Shocks is barely hanging on to OU though, but nevertheless it is still here. This Pokemon is really good right now, primarily because of the lead option Boost Energy set. Sandy Shocks can easily switch into Pokemon like Zapdos for example and set up free rocks like when Zapdos is trying to go for a Volt Switch. That and alongside Samurott Spikes can be very annoying for the opponent. Speed Boost Sandy Shocks allow it to outspeed common threats like Cinderace, Enamorus, non-boosted Valiant, etc. And because most of the tier have difficulty with electric and ground coverage right now, for the most part it can fire off whatever moves it desires. Terra type Ice as well lets it hit opposing ground Pokemon like Tusk or Lando or whichever Pokemon that may seem like it hardwalls it initially. This set primarily on screen is really popular because of how min-max the EVs are, so that special attack and speed are separated by 1 base point, meaning you are dealing the maximum damage while activating booster energy for speed, which is really good. Hey, quickly, before we move on with the video, if you guys haven't already, I would really appreciate you guys subscribing for the more future competitive content on this channel. I make competitive content like this all the time, and so if you guys are really enjoying this, you guys will definitely like what's coming in the future. And right now, the goal is to hit 10k by the end of the summer, so if you guys are enjoying yourselves, I would really appreciate the support. Anyways, back to the video. Speaking of rises, we have to talk about Iron Treads and Garchomp, and how many people thought, as well as I, on Garchomp, how it would drop to UU or UUBL in Garchomp's case, but surprisingly, they have hung on to the tier, and pretty convincingly as well. Many people thought because of new threats like Enamorix, etc. running around, its days as OU staples will be coming as an end, but we have all been surprised. Chomp's hazard gameplay is still well and alive, and Tread's ability to be a leftovers, assault vest, booster energy, etc. versatility utility Pokemon is still pretty valuable in the tier with fairy Pokemon like Enamorus running around. Now I'm not going to go super in depth on Treads since I just talked about it in my last video, but in short, its typing utility still makes it a solid Pokemon to have so far in the OU tier. It will be interesting to see, however, how long this Pokemon will hang on to the tier, as every month it feels like we have the same discussion about it, that it will fall. And speaking of, on Garchomp, it'll be interesting to also see how far it will be taken, as such Garchomp's role as a hazard setter or stuff like that is kind of taken care of, and it can't have any ways of really to boost its speed, which is primarily what is holding it back. So it'll be very interesting to see as well how Garchomp will hold up in the OU tier in the following couple of months leading up to the DLC. I don't think we can get through this video without talking about Basculegeion, both male and female. Coming into this metagame, many players thought Swift Swim Wave Crash Basculegeion would be Floatzel but on steroids, especially since it had a much wider array of move pool than Floatzel and it hit harder. However, as the metagame progressed, a couple of things struck out as easy, obvious counter checks. 1. Dondozo was extremely good switching, especially to a Wave Crash variant, as it was a massive water type defensive wall. 2. Rain is good, but isn't that hard now to switch the weather with Chilly Reception Glowking or Torkoal's unboosted teams, basically killing off all Swift Swim variants, especially since Glowking is super common, so Chilly Reception to some other Pokemon, etc. You guys know the vibe. Dragonite as well with Multiscale could come off a kill and stall out some of the turns of Rain, and lastly Gambit being one of the best if not the best Pokemon with Sucker Punch threat, and all that proved to be a bit too much for this ghostly fish. And more specifically for the female one, if you have Clodsire with like Water Absorb or Volcanion with Water Absorb, etc., it gets supremely outwalled in a hurry, and I'm speaking from experience, like trust me. All of these factors culminated to push this ghostly fish out of the tier. It's really good, don't get me wrong, but there were just easy checks to these things than initially thought, and it isn't a team building aspect where you have to always think about it, because throughout you building your team, you will find naturally a way to counter it. Now, these are some of the main points that stood out to me, but I'll make mention of some other small points as well that stood out to me in these graphics. UU is about to go crazy with the amount of drops from OU that occurred. I'm not going to go through every single one because we'll be here for like an eon, but like simply note all of these drops, like UU is about to be the next OU, or what OU was in June. Seeing Cyclostar and UU doing good without Shoutout also goes to show how this Pokemon still is pretty reliable and pretty viable down to UU, and it wasn't just a one-trick pony. Side spam is going to be ridiculous and hilarious in UU because of Gardekuno and Indeedee combos now. Only 2 legit Hisuian Pokemon are actually really good in the metagame, being Hisuian and Samron, which is at an absurd number 5 overall usage, which goes to show how valuable Hazards and especially Ceaseless Edge is. And we cannot forget Enamorous Incarnate as well, which is really good. And when Quillfish was given an Eviolite to hold, it proved to be way too much down in PU, especially with its extra bulk. There are just a bunch of other small things as well I can keep going on, but I think I'll leave it at that. What do you guys think? Anything else to make mention of? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys haven't already, join the Discord as well. Link in the description down below as well. Thanks for watching, guys.